Host of a collision, be here with you today. On behalf of the City of New Orleans, welcome to our great city, and I wish you a great collision week this week. With the click of a button, we can buy shirts from China, sell car parts to a mechanic in Brazil. The global marketplace is now much more accessible, and so too is the local market. In this booming local market, where people are able to buy and sell in their own locality, that has earned OfferUp a valuation of over $1 billion and sees them challenging Craigslist and eBay's dominance. Please welcome to the stage, in conversation with Lindsey Turrentine of CNET, OfferUp CEO Nick Huzar, together with previous president of PayPal and now general partner at Andreessen Horowitz, Jeff Jordan.
They switched it on us. Keep going down that.
Hi, everybody. This is a wonderful room. Thank you so much for joining us here. And I am here with Jeff and Nick to talk about some really interesting ideas about how we buy and sell things, how that is changing, what this transition between big box shopping at Kmart kind of looks like, and where we're going next. And it's exciting. Very quickly, I'd love to hear a little bit about your backgrounds. Jeff, let's start with you.
I started in technology in the late 90s as the internet boom was coming, managed eBay.com for a number of years, then PayPal, and then OpenTable, which we took public in 2009. Since after doing that, joined Andreessen Horowitz 7 years ago, invest in great consumer companies like OfferUp.
So you know a little bit about how people buy and sell things.
Hopefully by now.
All right. Nick, tell us a little bit about OfferUp.
Yeah, OfferUp is the fastest growing mobile marketplace in the country. And our mission is really to build the largest, simplest, and most trustworthy way for people to buy and sell from these devices that we all now have conveniently located in our pockets. And I think if you think of the kind of the opportunity we see before us, we think there's a massive opportunity to reduce friction in the local buying and selling experience.
So, Jeff, you've made your living predicting the future of how people transact, for lack of a better word. You must think a lot about human behavior. You must think about this constant expectation of convenience that we have. What about this platform has changed people's expectations? How has that changed this world?
I mean, the OfferUp was given the gift of a green field by Craigslist. So typically, historically, if you wanted to clean out your garage and get money for it, you either had a yard sale or you posted it on Craigslist. Craigslist has not yet recognized that this phone exists or is important. They actually don't yet have a mobile app. And so you get a company like OfferUp that basically has figured out you can list something for sale with, take a picture, enter a few things of information, and launch it. And the level of convenience and the absence of friction has just created a great opportunity. And I've never been associated with a company that has grown as fast as OfferUp. It's remarkable.
So OfferUp is an answer to Craigslist, maybe a little bit to eBay. And I know that you've learned a ton from how people interact with each other when they're buying and selling locally. Can you tell us a little bit about what you've learned and then maybe some news that you have today about that?
Sure. Yeah, so maybe a quick short story. So I started OfferUp because I had a daughter on the way and I had a room full of stuff. And if I'm sure most of you have ever experienced this, you kind of think of this daunting task of like, oh man, is it really worth my time? So I think at the end of the day, really one of the biggest things I think we're solving for is time by creating a simpler experience there. So I think we kind of focused on three key pieces. One is that simplicity, the second one is reducing friction, and the third is trust. We're bringing millions of people together face to face every single month, so trust is a really core part of that experience. And so I think the first aha moment, what Jeff kind of alluded to, was we think there was a huge opportunity with local to really take on Craigslist and be dominant in a lot of local markets. And we've been doing that for a number of years. At the same time, we said, what if we could extend this? How else can we reduce friction? So today we're officially launching shipping. So now we're starting to enter into the world of eBay. But again, I think the question becomes, is it worth me driving across town for that item, or can I just hit a button and for $5 somebody will actually deliver it to me? So we think there's a massive opportunity there to not only reduce friction locally, but also extend that nationally as well.
So when you say reduce friction locally, what have you learned about how to do that? What is it about a local market what friction are you taking out? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so I think, if you look at these phones, these devices, they're all in our pockets today, they have enabled us to reimagine an experience that has just been full of friction historically. So everything from just the ability to take a picture. So if you've ever, for example, used Craigslist or even tried to post on eBay, you'll notice, 13 minutes later, you're still in the posting process. OfferUp, you can just take a picture in a matter of seconds, it's out there. We also have built-in chat. We have things like maps and locations that enable us to reduce that experience, friction there. We are building recommended meetup locations. That's a big pain too. Like when can you meet? Where can you meet? We're getting involved in things like payments with shipping. So every one of those steps is a reason that I think most of us in this room probably still have stuff in our house we're not getting rid of. But if you combine all that together, you realize that you're reducing a lot of friction, saving people a lot of time.
So what about that local behavior can you apply to that national market? Or I guess, are there lessons for people in this room? What do people do like at this human-to-human level when they're in a neighborhood together that you want them to be doing at a national level?
Yeah, well, I think I'll give you an example of like small merchants that are using our platform. I think one of the amazing things about OfferUp and the way we built the product is it's really discovery-based. It's unlike Amazon where you go and you know what you want. You're there for the diapers or the batteries or the things you're going to get. Our average user spends 20 minutes a day on OfferUp 3 times a day. They're discovering what's nearby. So on their way home, for example, they can buy those skis or that shirt they saw at the store down the street. So I think that's one of the things that we've learned on a local level. But again, I think the thing we can do for merchants is extend that reach for them. So maybe they want to reach an audience that's beyond their neighborhood. Things like shipping enable them to reach a wider audience there as well.
It was actually one of the interesting things for us when we considered investing in OfferUp. The engagement is much more like a social network site than a commerce site. I'd never seen it. People come to OfferUp and just browse and discover, and it's comparable daily engagement to Instagram and Snapchat.
That's really interesting. Jeff, you have watched people behave on these mobile platforms now for a long time. I want to pick your brain about the same question, local behavior. Is there something that's really important about distance? And when I think about the way shopping has changed, the expectations that we've all built up for ourselves based on things like Airbnb, the apps that are on our phones, it seems that our expectations for convenience have changed. And do you think about distance a lot?
Yeah, I do think the expectation for convenience has changed dramatically. The only way you can not provide convenience is if you're providing something else that's an overwhelming value to the user, value being one of them. We were involved in Zulily, and the Zulily customer was willing to wait a few days to receive their items because they were getting such an outrageous deal, and it's the kind of thing that typically you don't need to consume right away. But I do think it's become table stakes, and OfferUp offers the opportunity to have instantaneous fulfillment. If you're in the same town, you literally can just I'll go get it, or let's meet and exchange it. Shipping, what it does, it's not necessarily convenience oriented, but it massively increases the addressable market you have. So if I list an iPhone and it's only available for sale locally, that's one value prop. If I say I'll ship it, it's a national thing, and I have a national market to essentially bid for it.
So for OfferUp, have you established sort of a trustworthiness because of these relationships, and then when you apply national shipping, people's familiarity with that trusted network gets extended? Is that the concept?
Yeah, so trust was very core to our company since inception. Since before we raised even an outside dollar, we were spending a lot of time on trust. And if you've ever, again, dealt with Craigslist, you know there's no concept of reputation. You're dealing with a complete stranger. And we said, this has got to be core to the product that we're building. So, we focused a lot on reputation and ratings and really understanding, are people showing up on time? Like if you've ever done a Craigslist transaction, you know that there's nothing more frustrating than that. So we spent a lot of effort in what we can do online, but also offline. So we have a lot of meetup programs that we're doing. with police departments now and retail locations around the country. So we're really trying to take this mobile experience and also bring it into the to the offline world and build trust in everything that we do. And again, I think you see this a lot where people are comfortable now getting in cars with strangers and renting beds from people via Airbnb. It's just this kind of the world that we live in. So I think trust is really important to build into the product and make it core to what you're doing.
Jeff, do you think that trust, that person-to-person trust that's been established through all these new forms of businesses and transactions having to do with cars and homes, do you think that is eroding trust in big box manufacturers? Is that a liability for big manufacturers or just another opportunity?
I view the two worlds as fairly different. I do think this new model of business has to have trust. I mean, we at eBay, we called it trust and safety. And to be trusting, you have to be safe. For the consumer to trust, you have to be safe. And so the amount of effort behind the scenes at a company like OfferUp or a company like Airbnb working to build a trusted experience is extraordinary, and basically for me is the key to success. Because if they don't have trust, you're not going to be a place that thrives in commerce.
So now with national shipping, you're going head to head with Craigslist. Now this extends sort of the eBay world. Tell me a little bit more about the difference between OfferUp and eBay, because I think this is interesting.
Sure. I think first and foremost, we are a mobile-first company, and mobile is the future. And so, again, I think that at the end of the day, it really comes back down to kind of our approach. And so I think, V1 was, hey, get into markets and really be dominant locally throughout the country. And, we're one of the top shopping apps in the country now. And so that was a very core part of our strategy. And then we said, well, shipping is a natural extension of that. But again, it's really a big time saver more than anything, and just a completely different experience, a discovery-based type experience versus a searching kind of experience, and really, again, reducing a significant amount of friction for both buyers and sellers. So, if you want to buy something across the country on OfferUp, you just click one button and it's on its way. We tell you what's happening every step of the way. We tell you when it hits your doorstep, and it's really a frictionless experience. And so that's kind of the obsession of what we're doing. But again, predominantly mobile and mobile first is the key.
I would love to hear the most interesting thing that has been sold on OfferUp, or just a fun story about some of the things that are being handed off.
Trying to think of things
While you're thinking,
Yeah.
at eBay in the day, Meg was a phenomenal public speaker, and one time she was called in front of the Girl Scouts of America with all the leading Girl Scouts and their moms, and someone asked her this question, and she just responded immediately, said, "A young man sold his virginity," and tried to bring it back, and all the moms in the room went, and the daughters went. So
I won't be sharing that story.
Yeah, try to top that.
I can't one up that one. Yeah. I mean, I think you name it, I've seen it on OfferUp, which is amazing because it's, again, you can just take a picture and literally sell anything. So you can imagine it. I think we've seen it. But, there was this comedian, I forgot her name, but the other day she was talking about OfferUp. She sold Jada Smith now, gave her a handbag, and she didn't have a lot of money at the time, and she was on her way, coming up in Hollywood. She's like, you can't have these knockoff bags. You got to get a nice bag. And she's like, what's this bag worth? Like $1,300. So immediately she used it for a while. Then she went and actually sold Jada's bag on OfferUp.
Wow.
So I thought that was kind of cool.
That's a good one.
But don't tell Jada.
Don't tell Jada. Yeah.
And backstage, we were talking a little bit about the stages in life when you need to sell things or when you need to have these transactions. I was asking, is this for college kids? Is it young families?
Yeah.
What have you found about the stages when people want to buy and sell?
Yeah, I mean, I think that what's really interesting, and people ask who uses OfferUp, and I say, well, everybody. It really kind of skews America. So, we've seen everything from 10-year-olds that are selling things on OfferUp. I mean, we've heard of transactions where the mom drives up in the minivan and a 10-year-old hops out to actually exchange the good. And I think that's really interesting because parents are saying, hey, I'm not going to give you any more money. Your allowance is your allowance. You want something, you need to liquidate all these toys that you have. So, I mean, you've seen that happen, especially as parents. If you're a parent, you know that most of the things in your house don't last more than 6 months. So what do you do with all that stuff? One of the reasons I started OfferUp, again, was I had a room full of stuff and I had a daughter on the way. But I found like our homes are actually 30% larger than the 50s, but our families are smaller. If you look at houses with 2-car garages in America, 25% of houses with 2-car garages can't park in their garage. 10% of us are renting storage units. So this is how much stuff is accumulating, and again, our belief is that if you reduce that friction, we can make these things kind of discoverable. But again, OfferUp really works for anyone. All the way up through my parents use it. They recently retired and are now downsizing. And so, we try to really build OfferUp to be an easy experience. I wouldn't say my parents are the most technical people out there, but they figure out how to make it work.
So, Jeff, we've spent as an industry a decade talking about what millennials want. It's kind of exhausting, and I think millennials are tired of being discussed. That said, do you find that the expectation for ease when it comes to buying and selling or any kind of transaction that's app-based applies to everyone at this point, or is it still mostly generational?
I think it's becoming the broad expectation, and I think Amazon has just trained people. If they're, different estimates have different market shares for Amazon, but the most credible one I say put it above 40% of U.S. e-commerce. And when 4 in 10 transactions come overnight on one-click shopping, it does create an expectation. And so I think the best entrepreneurs and the best new companies have to figure out how to bake that into their user experience. And it's so interesting. Teeny little changes in the user experience can have these enormous downstream impacts. And that's one of the things I love about this business. The growth hacking is just, growth hacking means you made your product better and consumers embraced it. And so, for me, that is the characteristics of the great new companies.
So on that note, we have a couple minutes left here. Nick, make the product better, growth hacking, all of these ideas. If you could take any lesson that you've learned from working in this local market for years and years and years and tell people how to apply it, what would you teach this audience?
I think number one is be very persistent and go out and get out of the office and meet people. I meet a lot of engineers that are kind of, or even entrepreneurs that think they know and they really don't. So, early on, we used to just constantly mock things up, and I'd always walk into stores or ask people and friends. I'd harass my friends early on and say, what do you think about this? And they constantly give feedback. So I think it's all about learning and iterating, and we still do that today at the company all the time. We come up with points of view, and we're constantly testing those and bringing users in and asking what they think about that. So I think that's really critical.
And do you think that learning varies when you're working in local markets? So do you learn different things in New Orleans than you do in, San Francisco or a small town in the Midwest?
I think overall what we found is OfferUp is very successful in markets all around the country. Sure, there's little nuances of things that will sell in different markets, but overall I think the patterns are very similar.
Humans are humans. Do you think the same thing, Jeff?
It is interesting having done a bunch of local businesses. There are differences by markets. Turns out people in Manhattan don't have 2-car garages. And so, which means there's a different trading pattern, a different
it's hard to deliver things.
But, overall, that's what it is.
Interesting. Thank you so much to both of you.
Thank you.
It's a fast conversation and a really interesting one, and I wish you a lot of luck with OfferUp in your national shipping. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.